Hello everyone and welcome to today's E2 Language IELTS writing class. My name is Sasha. I'm one of the team of expert IELTS teachers at e2language.com. In today's writing class, we're going to focus on Task 1 Academic. As you can see from the slide on the screen, this is our Class B, where we're going to do a timed mock test. We'll do all parts of the Task 1 Academic mock test. We'll also review some skills. Now, before we begin, let me confirm that you can see and hear me. If you can see and hear me, can you type the word yes into your chat box, please? Lots of people typing in yes, thank you very much. Now, for those of you who are watching on YouTube Live, thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, I can't see your answers when you write in on YouTube Live. So I recommend that at the end of today's class, you go to e2language.com and register for a free account so that next time you can log in through the E2 Language website and I'll be able to see your answers. Okay, let's get ready to begin. I'm Sasha from E2 Language. Today we're doing our IELTS writing mock test. This is our Class B, and we're focusing on Task 1 Academic. This is a group class, and in the group class, you'll be able to hear me, and I'll ask you to write your answers in the chat box. So you'll be listening and writing to communicate. If you would like some one-on-one individual help, I recommend two different ways that you can get some one-on-one personal individual help. One way is to submit your writing for assessment. You can upload your writing to the E2 Language website where it will be marked by an E2 IELTS expert who will give you an overall writing score, the 4 specific scores for Task 1 Academic Writing, as well as detailed written feedback about how you can improve your writing. I'll show you how to upload your writing at the end of today's class. The other way to get some individual help is to book a one-on-one tutorial. A one-on-one tutorial is a 45-minute one-on-one class, just you and your E2 Language IELTS expert. And during this class, we'll focus on your weak points. Now, some students choose to focus only on writing. They want to do some Task 1 and some Task 2 writing. Other students want to do some writing and some speaking, or some writing and some listening. It's up to you. We will fine-tune the tutorial to best meet your needs to help you improve your weak points so you can achieve the score that you're aiming for. In our live class today, we'll begin with some task analysis to make sure we understand the question. We're going to do some guided writing, so we will break the writing process up into stages and write each of the stages with a specific time limit. I'll also give you some brief group feedback as you are writing. We'll review our high-scoring sample. I'll show you where you can get some homework or extra practice activities on the E2 Language website. And we'll finish up with Q&A. Q&A is questions and answers. If you have any IELTS related questions, you can ask me those questions at the end of today's mock test. It could be questions about today's topic, our Task 1 academic topic, or it might be something else to do with IELTS speaking, listening, reading, or writing, grammar or vocab, exam tips or study tips, any IELTS questions you have, you can ask me at the end of today's class. Today's class will take about 1 hour. Now, before we begin, I want to quickly show you our live class schedule for September, and I want to focus on Task 1 academic classes. You can see that on Monday, we have a Task 1 academic class. We also have another one on Wednesday. That's what we're doing right now. Here it is. And then on Saturday, we have our new class, the Academic Writing Task 1 Masterclass. So over the past few weeks, we've been looking at different task types. This week, we are focusing on bar charts. Bar charts are a particularly common task type that you will find in IELTS. So it's essential that you feel comfortable and confident answering bar chart questions. Let's quickly remind ourselves, what is Task 1 academic? As you know, you need to describe a visual image, and there are a variety of different task types that are possible. You might have line graphs or bar charts or tables or pie charts. You might have mixed questions or maps or processes. How many words do you need to write for task 1 academic? How many minutes do we recommend that you take? And how much of your total writing score is task 1 worth? So there are 3 questions. Write all 3 answers in your chat box. How many words, how many minutes, and how much, what fraction of your total writing score is task 1 worth? Write your answers in the chat box, please. Lots of people writing in now. That's great. You can see lots of answers coming in, and I'm happy to see that most people have got the right idea. You need to write 150 words or more. 150 is the minimum. If you want to write more than 150, you can. That's absolutely fine. But you must write at least 150. If you write less than 150, you will be penalized. You will lose marks. Yes, your IELTS examiner will definitely count your words. So if you're less than 150, you'll be penalized and lose marks. You should spend about 20 minutes on task 1 academic. Remember, in IELTS writing, you have 1 hour to do both tasks. And we usually recommend that you spend 40 minutes on task 2 and 20 minutes on task 1. And finally, task 1 is worth 1/3 of your total writing score. So task 2 is worth 2/3. Let's have a look at today's question. Let's start off by looking at the words, the written part. It says, you should spend about 20 minutes on this task. Write at least 150 words. The bar chart shows the percentage of Tasmanian men and women who played competitive sports in 2015. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, let's have a look at some of the information. You can see some of the information here about the bar chart. We can see what it's called, for example. It's called Percentage of Tasmanians Playing Competitive Team Sports 2015. We can see on the right-hand side, there's a key with male and female. On the left-hand side, we can see the percentage on the y-axis between 0 and 70%. And along the bottom on the x-axis, we can see that there are 5 different categories. These are different age groups, 19 and under, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 and over. So quick question, before we see the answer, let's make a prediction. Which age group do you think played competitive sports the most? Which age group played competitive team sports the most? What do you think? There are 5 choices, 19 and under, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, and 50 and over. So of course, we don't have the information in front of us right now. We're just guessing which group played the most competitive team sports. Having a look at some of the answers coming in. Looking at these answers, I think overwhelmingly most people have chosen 20 to 29. They have predicted 20 to 29. Men or women had higher figures. Did men or women have higher figures for playing competitive team sports? Which one? Men or women? So again, you're guessing, you're predicting. What do you think will be the answer? We can't see the bars yet. Let's have a look at some of the answers coming in. Having a look. Let's have a look. Wow. Overwhelmingly, most people, in fact, I don't think anybody has chosen women. I'm having a look now. Overwhelmingly, I would say 95% of people have chosen men. All right, let's have a quick look. We're going to analyze and plan now. So have a look on the screen. You can see the bar chart in front of you. Remember, we asked ourselves 2 questions. Which age group played the most competitive team sport, which age group? And did men or women play more competitive team sport, which age group? And did men or women play more competitive team sports? I'll give you 1 minute to analyze now. You can write your answers in the chat box. 1 minute to analyze, write your answers. You don't need to write sentences, just a few words is fine in your chat box. That was your 1 minute to analyze. Now, remember, I asked you to focus on two important questions. The first question was, which age group plays the most competitive team sports? And the second one was, do men or women play more? Let's go through it together. So first of all, which age group? It looks like the 19 and under age group. So remember, to find out the age group, we have to combine men and women, combine them together. And we can see that when we combine men and women, 19 and under is the age group that plays the most competitive team sport. Now, the next question we asked was whether men or women play more sport. And there was an interesting trend here. Let's have a look, and we can see that the blue bar is higher for the first three categories, 19 and under, 20 to 29, and 30 to 39. So male participation was higher for these young groups, the 19 and under, 20 to 29, and 30 to 39. But when we compare that with the older groups, 40 to 49 and 50 and over, we can see that the female numbers are higher. So for the first three categories, there's more male participation. But in the two older categories, there's more female participation. Now we will when we write our overview. Okay, let's remind ourselves about the structure that we use for writing answers for Task 1 Academic. There are three parts to our structure: our intro, overview, and key features. In the introduction, we're going to reword the summary. We find the summary sentence from the question and we change it into our own words. This is a vocabulary activity. Can you keep the same idea but use your own words? You're changing the summary sentence into your own words or introduction. It's usually one or two sentences. Our overview is also usually one or two sentences. This is where we describe the main trends, stages, or differences. So we asked ourselves two important questions when we did our analysis a few minutes ago, and the answers to those questions will become our overview. Remember that when you write your overview, you don't need to include any of the numbers or statistics from the bar charts. We will save all of those numbers and statistics and we'll use them in the key features. The key features is where we present and highlight all of the important features, and this is where we use the data. This is where we use the numbers, the percentages, the statistics. Now remember that there are two key features paragraphs. So in total, we have 4 paragraphs: the intro, overview, key features 1, and key features 2. You also need to think about how will you organize your 2 key features paragraphs. What will you include in key features 1 and what will you include in key features 2? Okay, time to do some writing now. Let's start off with our introduction. You can see the question on the screen. And in particular, I want you to look on the left-hand side in red where it says the summary sentence. Let's quickly read it again. The bar chart shows the percentage of Tasmanian men and women who played competitive sports in 2015. That's the summary sentence. Your job is to rewrite that sentence in your own words. I'll give you 2 minutes to do that now. Write your introduction in the chat box. 2 minutes. Good luck. That was your 2 minutes for you to write your introduction. Remember, to write an introduction, you focus on the summary sentence from the question, and then you change it into your own words. Let's have a look now at my sample answer. You can see it on the screen under the bar chart, and I'll read it with you now. The bar graph compares the proportions of males and females in Tasmania who competed in team games in 2015. Let's have a look at how I changed some of the words from the question. Look at my words in red, and you'll notice that I've changed some of the words from the question. For example, the question says the bar chart shows, and I changed it to the bar graph compares. The question says percentage of men and women, and I changed it to proportions of males and females. And then in the question, it says played competitive sports, and I changed it to competed in team games. So I didn't change every word, but I tried to change as many as possible. If you get stuck and you can't think of a different word to use, you can't think of a synonym, don't worry. If you get stuck and you can't think of a synonym, use the same word from the question, from the summary sentence, and keep going. I don't want you to waste time trying to remember a different word. Instead, keep on going, finish your task 1 academic, and if you have time, you can go back and try to change that word to a better one. Let's move into our overview now. So we have the question on the screen. And in our overview, we have to write a broad description of what's happening. What are the 2 or 3 most important things that you can see? Now, usually for bar charts, we're focusing on trends or the greatest and the least. Think about the questions that we asked ourselves when we were doing our analysis. We asked ourselves, which age group plays the most competitive team sport? And we asked ourselves, do men play more or do women play more? In terms of our analysis, we decided that the youngest group plays the most and that male participation is higher than female in the younger groups, but that the female figure is higher for the 40 plus age groups. I want you to include this information in your overview, but don't include any of the numbers or the data or the statistics. We'll save all of those numbers for our key features paragraphs. I'm going to give you 5 minutes now to write your overview. Your overview can be 1 or 2 sentences. That's absolutely fine. I'm also going to change the settings of the chat box, so you won't be able to see other people's sentences. Instead, all of your answers will come to me. And as you are writing, I'm going to briefly comment on as many of your answers as possible. Of course, I won't be able to do everyone because we have 146 people in our class today. So I won't be able to comment on everyone's, but as many as possible. I'll comment on whether you're doing well, and if you're making any mistakes, what are those mistakes? So I'll give you a brief comment. You've got 5 minutes now to write your overview in the chat box. Good luck. That was your 5 minutes for you to write your overview. Remember to write your overview. You use your analysis that we focused on earlier today. Let's have a look at my sample now. You can see it on the screen. Overall, young Tasmanians were clearly the most engaged in competitive sports. So this is focusing on which age group played the most competitive sport. Now we have to think about males versus females. In terms of gender, whereas in the younger age groups, males took part in these sports in greater numbers, in the two oldest groups, women's participation was higher. So you can see that I've included 3 pieces of information. The first one is that the younger Tasmanians, the younger age groups, play more competitive sport. The second piece of information is that in the younger age groups, men play more. And the third piece of information is that in the older age groups, women play more. You can see that I didn't use any of the numbers or the data, the statistics from the bar graphs. Instead, I'm saving that information and I'll use it in a moment when I write the key features paragraphs. Now, before we move on to the key features, I want to remind you about our latest type of class. This is the IELTS group class. It's a small group class that focuses on either speaking or writing. These small group classes have 1 expert teacher and a maximum of 5 students. They are 55 minutes long, and the class focuses on practical skills. If it's a speaking class, we focus on all 3 parts of the IELTS speaking exam. In the class, you'll have the opportunity to speak a lot and get a lot of live feedback from your E2 IELTS expert about how you can improve your speaking skills. In the writing class, we focus on the task 2 essay. And in the writing class, you'll have an opportunity to not only bring an essay, but also write in the class and get some live, practical, useful feedback about how you can improve your writing skills and get the score that you're aiming for. It's a very affordable class at $19 per class. There are limited spots available. You can book now at e2language.com. Let's move into the key features now. This is where we're going to describe the details and where we're going to include the data. So let's have a look on the screen and you can see our bar chart. Here we have to describe the key features. Now, very importantly, we need to think of a logical way to organize our information. We're going to have 2 key features paragraphs. We can't just write a list of information and divide the list in half. We need to look for a logical way to organize it. And the logical way that I've chosen is to focus on the young groups and then the old groups because they have 2 different trends. In the younger groups, we can see that there's more men playing sport. In the older groups, we can see there's more women playing sport. So that's a logical way to do it. There are other ways that you can organize it as well, but this is one logical way, the younger groups versus the older groups. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes now for you to write your 2 key features paragraphs. I recommend that you do key features 1 about the younger groups and key features 2 about the older groups. Remember that you need to include lots of data, lots of numbers, statistics from the bar charts. Again, as you're writing, I'm going to comment on as many as possible. I won't be able to give you detailed feedback because we have a lot of students in the class, but I'll write a few words on as many as I can. You have 10 minutes. You can write your key features paragraphs now. That was your 10 minutes to write your 2 key features paragraphs. I saw that many of you were writing your paragraphs and sending them in. Thank you very much for that. I've commented on as many as I could within the time limit. Of course, I couldn't comment on everybody's, and the comments that I wrote were very brief. I wasn't able to give you detailed feedback. Detailed feedback is very useful for you because it shows you what your weak points are and how to improve them. If you would like to get some detailed feedback about your writing or your speaking, I recommend that you upload your writing or speaking to the E2 language website. It'll be marked by an E2 IELTS expert who will give you an overall score, the 4 specific scores for either writing or speaking, and then detailed feedback about how you can improve your writing or speaking. At the end of today's mock test, I'll show you how you can upload your writing to the E2 language website. Let's go through it together. We're going to start off by looking at key features 1. And as I mentioned, in key features 1, I'm going to focus on the younger groups because they have the same trend. As noted above, roughly the same percentage of under 19s played competitively in teams at 60% of the island's population. In their 20s, males continued to take part in the same numbers, but the percentage of females was much lower, with just over half the figure of under 19s, around 33%. Although the percentage of men was significantly lower in the next oldest age bracket, 30 to 39-year-olds, it was still almost double that of Tasmanian women, with just 20% in this age group competing. Now we're going to move into the other 2 age groups, the 40 to 49 and 50 and over. And of course, this will be my key features 2 paragraph. Interestingly, participation percentages for women were higher among the older age groups, with around 30% of both genders playing team sports in their 40s. While only 20% of men were still playing into their 50s and beyond, the figure was slightly higher for women. So these are our 2 key features paragraphs. I'll give you a chance to take a photo of my full sample in a moment. So let's go through our sample together. You can see it here. It's on the right-hand side. Remember that your IELTS examiner will mark your writing in 4 different ways, and we're going to look at the different ways that they will assess your writing. If you want to take a photo or a screenshot of the sample, now is a good time to do it. The first way that your examiner will look at your writing is to focus on the task achievement. You can see that on the left-hand side. You need to present a clear overview of the main trends, and you can see that in our overview. You also need to mention all of the elements, such as male versus female, the percentages, and the different age groups. You need to present and highlight each key feature, and we've done that in detail in body 1 and body 2. You also need to include a lot of the data, and you can see that I've used a lot of percentages in my answer. And finally, you need to report accurately. You need to explain the information correctly. The second way that your examiner will look at your writing is coherence and cohesion. Firstly, you need to organize the information logically. You also need to use paragraphs. You can see that we've done that with our logical structure of 4 paragraphs. We always use 4 paragraphs when we're writing our task 1 academic. It doesn't matter what the task type is. It's a line, a bar, a table, a pie, a map, a process, mixed charts. We always use 4 paragraphs. You also need to use a range of linking devices. Have a look on the screen, and I'm going to show you some of our ways of linking. If you want to take a photo, now is the time to take a photo. These linking devices, you can see there are 3 lists of them. These linking devices are very useful ways of creating coherence and cohesion. That means connecting your ideas and your paragraphs and your sentences together. If you want, I'll give you 5 seconds to take a photo of these linking devices. On the screen now, you can see some of the linking devices that I used. You can see I've used them in each of the 4 paragraphs. Look in my sample and you can see in red some of these linking words. Who, in terms of, whereas, but, although, while, lots of different devices. The third way that your examiner will look at your writing is lexical resource, which means vocabulary. You need to have a wide range of vocabulary. You can see some of the range that I have used in red, as well as some precise vocabulary and with correct spelling. And finally, grammar. In terms of grammar, you need to demonstrate a wide range of structures, and included in those structures are comparatives and superlatives. This is what we focused on in Monday's class. Remember, comparatives are where you are comparing 2 items, for example, big, bigger, small, smaller, whereas superlatives is when you're comparing 3 or more, big, bigger, the biggest, small, smaller, the smallest. Have a look on the screen and you can see our sample. There is our sample overview, and there are 5 missing words. At the bottom of the screen, you have some words that you can choose. Which words will you put in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? Your job is to fill in the gaps. I'll give you 20 seconds. Write your answers in the chat box. Let's go through the answers together. I'll put them into the paragraph and I'll read you the paragraph now. Overall, young Tasmanians were clearly the most engaged in competitive sports in terms of gender, whereas in the younger age groups, males took part in these sports in greater numbers. In the 2 oldest groups, women's participation was higher. How many did you get right out of 5? How many did you get right? Write your answer in the chat box. Let's have a look at some of the answers coming in. I think most people in between 3 and 5. If you've got 4 or 5, you should be feeling pretty confident. I think 3 or less, you need to do some review of your grammar. You can do that at the core skills section of the E2 language website. Okay, let's have a quick look. Now, we've just been looking at comparatives and superlatives, and you can see that I have used them in my overview. You can see them in red: the most engaged, greater numbers, and higher. We also need to use a range of structures, such as compound sentences. Compound sentences are where we use conjunctions to link 2 or more ideas. We use a narrow range of conjunctions, and the most common ones for compound sentences are and but. You can see here that I used but to create my compound sentence. We also used relative clauses. You can see my relative pronoun who. And you need, of course, use grammar accurately and with correct punctuation. So here's the full sample on the screen. You can see on the left-hand side, we've got our question. On the right-hand side, we've got our sample answer. I know that many of you like to take a photo or a screenshot. That's absolutely fine. I'll give you 5 seconds now to take a photo or a screenshot. This week we've been looking at bar charts. Next week we will turn our attention to pie charts, another common task type for Task 1 Academic. If you'd like to do some extra practice, go to the E2 Language website. All of our live classes and mock tests, just like this one, are recorded and uploaded to our website. You can click on recorded classes. You can also use our self-study materials. As I mentioned in the core skills section, there's an activity on comparatives, big, bigger, small, smaller, etc. So if you've got 3 or less in your self-assessment, in the little quiz that we did, 3 or less out of 5, then I recommend you do this extra activity about comparatives. Don't forget about our one-on-one 45-minute tutorial classes. It's a one-on-one class, just you and your E2 language IELTS expert. It's designed to meet all of your needs and to improve your weak points so you can get the score that you're aiming for. You can book a tutorial by clicking on tutorial. And finally, our latest type of class is the IELTS small group class. This is either a writing or speaking class. It's a 55-minute class with 1 expert teacher and a maximum of 5 students. We're focusing on practical skills that you need for the real IELTS test. In the speaking class, we focus on the 3 parts of the IELTS speaking test. You get an opportunity to speak as well as get useful practical feedback about how you can improve your speaking skills. In the writing class, we're focusing on task 2 essay writing. And again, you'll get lots of practical, useful feedback, simple, easy ways that you can improve your writing and get the score that you're aiming for. It's an affordable class at $19 per class. There are limited spots available. You can book at e2language.com. Now it's time for Q&A, questions and answers. If you have any IELTS questions, please write them in the chat box. For those of you who are watching on YouTube Live, thank you very much for logging in and participating. I recommend that you go to e2language.com right now and register for a free account so that next time you can log in through E2 Language and I'll be able to see your comments and your questions next time. So if you're watching through YouTube Live, I definitely recommend that you go to e2language.com and register for a free account right now.